There's no second best.
By becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we sell.
Wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. GM, GM, GM. Today is Wednesday. It's the 21st of August, daily levels. So, first thing. Remember I talked about this dollar yen. Not yen, dollar yuan, Chinese yuan. A few weeks back, someone highlighted it again to me yesterday. We were talking about this. Basically, whenever you see sustained periods of dollar weakness against the Chinese yuan, it tends to correlate with crypto bull runs and just bull runs in general. You see it topped out in January or December of 16, 17, all the way until the January of 18. That depreciation of the dollar coincided with a bull run in crypto. Then, obviously, post-COVID, you've had a strengthening dollar initially and then a weakening dollar all the way to the end of 2021. What was that? The biggest bull run in history. And here we go. We've gone through 2 years of dollar strength against the Chinese yuan. It now seems to be topping out. You've had a high, you had a failure to break higher, you've had a break of structure here. This absolutely looks like a corrective bounce. And the final confirmation will be breaking below where I have that alert set. When you see this, now this is a high time frame chart. When you see a weekly close below here, that should indicate that we see dollar trend down into these areas and maybe all the way down. That would be something that, now don't expect it to just repeat, right? Maybe. I know these central bank policies do actually run semi-cyclically, but we'll see. Anyway, just something that was on my radar. I did it on a monthly preview or a weekly outlook or something a while ago, so worth catching back up on. Now, back to crypto. Bitcoin, GM. So, daily chart continues to compress. We've seen a failure to push higher yesterday, and then prices holding up at the lows. I mean, it keeps hitting off the bands and rejecting. And you're looking at the 200-day moving average and the 200 EMA, which is here. And we are compressed at both of them. Now, losing those levels is bearish, but coming back into them and retesting them, especially when it keeps holding and holding and holding, unless it starts to break lower, that can actually be an okay sign. That might mean we're going to push back up above. Now, I did a path yesterday, which is this one. And so far, I actually think the black path is moving pretty well. If Bitcoin was going to do a shakeout yesterday, after pushing up, taking the highs, shakes out, flushes out any of the longs, holds into support here and is holding and is bouncing. Now, this move is a little bit corrective in nature, which I'll dive more into on trade of the day. And I think the market really is stuck here. There's not a clear catalyst to push it in either direction. And as gold goes to new all-time highs, but that actually looks like a reversal potential here. Don't forget, when gold is pushed up, false breakout, no false breakout and compressed at the highs and then broke out, that will attract breakout buyers. And there's a chance that this whole thing could be a false breakout on gold as well, to come back down for some more consolidation before an eventual breakout later. Gold is a very, very trappy asset like that. Lots of false breakouts because everyone wants to catch the big gold train whenever it's running. And so, anyway, for BTC, not too much to read into it until I start to see weakness below this today's low, or today's open, sorry, and below yesterday's flush level. I wouldn't be overly concerned about what we're seeing here. I think a lot of it is just low time frame noise. The market definitely has more potential for weakness, at least from BTC's perspective, but it's nothing to write home about. Ethereum, same thing. I mean, just sideways, no strength after the initial bounce. It's attempted to go up a few times. I would say Ethereum has had a failed sweep at the highs, came back, tried to push once, tried to push twice. Wouldn't say that it's imminently going to break down. it might actually squeeze higher first, but it looks like it wants to go down for at least a retest. And I think what's going to happen here, when you have these sideways trappy areas, I'll just show them. I'll show Bitcoin and ETH side by side on fresh charts, because it's very easy when the market has a base like this. Now, Bitcoin is actually got much wider. Consolidation here, but let's look at this over here. Bitcoin and ETH. Let me just take all this off. So ETH much more so. BTC's had a lot more of a move, but let's look at ETH especially. When you see these tight consolidations after a big move, it's tempting to fade whichever direction it goes in, right? Because when it comes down, you'll see a lot of shorting coming in, and if it goes down first, that can provide the fuel for a move up to the other side before more consolidation, and then eventually lower, and vice versa if it goes higher first. Now, the reason I think it probably goes lower first is that it's tried to go higher a few times, but to just pile into shorts here when there's all of this above from a high time frame basis, expecting a big breakdown, I would say it's not wise. I would say that even if Ethereum is bearish, you can easily see the market consolidating sideways for a bit longer. As for BTC, I mean, we're in one of those periods where, like, Bitcoin's not overvalued here. And even though structurally there's some signs here of potential weakness, it's also from the backdrop of, improving conditions across some other markets, like the dollar and Chinese yuan thing I just showed. If that starts to break lower, that should be positive for risk assets. If the dollar itself, the Dixie index, continues to weaken as it is doing, right? As we take this off here, I mean, there's such incredible dollar weakness that I've talked about for weeks. And whenever this is like from the end of June, I talked about this, and this breakdown should be super bullish for risk assets. And yet it's not really for BTC, at least for crypto. Now, there's other reasons behind that, but generally, dollar weakness should be good for crypto and good for the stock market and gold and everything that's essentially a trade against the dollar. And I think what you really need to see is the dollar breaking cleanly lower. If you're looking at this from a price action perspective, what is this? Uptrend into a consolidation. If that's a distribution, so if that consolidation breaks to the downside, you're looking at low 90s, and that would be a significant downtrend. This is moving in anticipation of Trump. Not only, but a lot of it. If Trump wins, there'll be a weak dollar policy. And I see that Trump, also something that we mentioned, I talked about Trump's odds had gone way too low, and you see them correcting again already. This is going to be one of these back and forth markets, from being neck and neck the other day. A few days ago, Harris was ahead. Now Trump's ahead again. I think that's roughly fair. I think 50-50 is fair enough. Trump's slight lead would make sense. I don't think it should be anything more than that. I think that's about right. And the last few days, we've just seen it going like too far in the other direction. That's basically all it is. Now, what else? So it's a strange time. You've got weak dollar, which should be good for crypto. You've got gold at all-time highs, which should be good for Bitcoin. You've got the prospect of interest rate cuts, which is coming. You've got generally seasonal flows as well. Once you get to September, October, you get new allocations and flows in for the end of the year, especially when it's been a positive year in stocks and in crypto, which it is. If you look at BTC from the start of the year, it's still green, still a big green year, right? You look at the stock market, still green. And whenever you have a positive year, towards the end of the year, you're going to get positive flows. So I don't know, maybe we're just in between, and it's not It's nothing. It's just going to take a bit more time to shake itself out. The point is, though I see price action wise, we can go lower. I also see a lot of positive backdrop, and I'm starting to think now, is Bitcoin really weak? Or at this point, is it just lagging and lacking a catalyst? And the longer it takes to break down from here, the better it is, right? I don't know what the big negative shock would be from here, necessarily. As I think that even if because even if the bull market's over, Bitcoin can still go to the highs, right? The bull market was over for Bitcoin in June 21, but they managed to squeeze it back towards the highs again for like what was almost a range trade. Now, the people who did that, FTXs and 3ACs, no, they don't exist anymore. Not around, so different players, are they going to be pushing the market? What's the incentive? Are they bullish? Overall, I think that here we are in the market, and I'm not bearish. And there's a bit more confirmation needed to be bullish. I think that would be the view. Also, another thing to remember: everything can be lined up well, higher time frame, and you can be bottoming, and you can still go lower. So I think that's one of the things to remember too. If we actually drop lower, I would feel much better. When you have a good setup, and the market seems to be in a good place to go higher, but it actually drops lower, it will stoke some more fear. We had this during this phase here. The market kept holding and holding and holding, but just will go lower and lower and lower, and then it held. And the sentiment gets worse, and capitulation happens, and people give up and give up and give up and give up, and then eventually it reverses. So that is not a bad thing. In fact, I'd rather see that. I'd rather see more chop or a little bit of downwards or sideways, just to show and to see if the market takes it from a perspective of being bearish, which could actually offer some more support. Whereas the problem is, right, if you rally super hard towards 70k, before the election, everyone gets really excited again and they think, oh, this is it, let's get long again. And that gives an opportunity for sellers to step in and push it down again. So, although this is kind of a more boring phase where it's not moving so much, I'm not so mad at that. Now, there is one thing going on, which is Tron, all the rage. So Justin Sun has launched a pump fund competitor. So if you know pump fund, also people saying that Tron's at all-time highs, it's obviously not. I don't know why. I've seen that a few times on Twitter. It's not at all-time highs yet. It's at yearly highs. But Pump Fun is this platform that's created so that you can launch meme coins on Solana. It's been all the rage. Most of the meme coins get created there. Justin Sun, as he tends to do, he loves to copy-paste stuff in crypto. He's one of the biggest blatant stealers of ideas, I guess you would call it. And has launched the same, called Sun Pump, right? Or what is it? I think it is. So he always does a play on words with his name. And people are now looking at Tron and saying, oh, is Tron the one to buy? And it's funny, we've talked about Tron. I've mentioned it on and off for the last 2 years about why does this thing just keep grinding higher? I mean, Tron is used. The Tron network's used a lot. A lot of USDT is used. It's transacted across Tron. Everyone in the third world who's sending Tether around to avoid their, shit currencies, a lot of them will use the Tron network. So it's actually useful and valuable. Now, is TRX, the coin, Tron, is that a good thing to own? No, not in my opinion. Because it's a bit like Binance Coin BNB. You know that the supply of this is vastly controlled by Justin Sun. And I would suspect that somewhere here soon, this will probably reach a peak. I don't think yet. I think people will tend to try and short this or fade it or be angry, and it can go much higher. But Now that everyone's talking about it, right? You're noticing this now. It gets on the radar. People start to see it and hear about it. And now there's meme coins on Tron. And I'm sure that some of you have seen these, attempted memes on Tron. Maybe there's some room to run in them. It's not really a game that I play. It's not my style. And it's not something that I track or I'm overly interested in. Every trader should do what they're good at. Other people would be looking for these, super low cap meme coins on Tron right early and trying to get in and get out. It's very much, a PvP battle, because I don't think there's going to be much of a sustained trend in the Tron ecosystem, but I also don't think that it's going to, be born and die in the same week. What usually happens with these type of trends is they persist longer than people think. People think, oh, this is just going to be a really quick pump and dump, and everyone's going to go over the Tron chain for like a week, and then every coin's going to crash, and then everyone's going to leave again. It's all going to go to zero. I don't know. I think the market, the thing I see as potential for maybe this lasting a little bit longer is that the market is desperate for a narrative, right? The market hasn't had anything to latch onto for many months now. And meme coin season is months ago. And this now gives the market an opportunity to, have something to play with. And all it is, like the whole market is just, outside of Bitcoin, the whole market is just speculation and gambling anyway. As is Bitcoin to a large extent. But of course, Bitcoin also has longer term, store of value properties. But everything else is just glorified gambling. And if you're going to do that, you have to behave not like a gambler. You have to be professional. So if you're not able to trade this in a professional manner, then just observe it. If it hasn't been on your radar, if you haven't been doing the research, if you don't have the systems to trade it, don't jump in. Don't chase every new shiny thing. That's very, very important as traders. But certainly, it's something the market's aware of, so I'll be aware of it too. I would guess that Tron itself will offer a good short at some point once it pumps high enough that Justin Sun starts to dump his bags, and then you'll have a really nice short back down, but I don't think that's yet. And overall, I think that's it, except I think there's some data today. And then the FOMC meeting minutes, that won't really matter. Then tomorrow, Jackson Hole starts, which is a central bankers all meeting. So, there we go. GM. See you all later on the live stream, 4 p.m. UTC. GM.